Classic TV fans, Rick Nineg here. I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Today we're going to be talking about home improvement. I believe amongst all classic TV shows that Home Improvement has the best Christmas episodes ever. That is, if you look at shows like all the classics that I usually color, I Love Lucy, Gilligan Island, Hogan's Heroes, The Munsters, Addams Family, the list goes on, but nothing comes close to Home Improvement. This is a show from the 90s that is so great, so funny, such a unique premise about a man who has a cable show, not too popular, kind of in the Detroit area, and we see his adventures on his television show with this family and this man that is obsessed with cars, more power tools, and he is so prone to accidents. It's so hilarious. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, especially from the 90s. Absolutely top three shows. I'm going to talk about all the 8 episodes from the entire series that focus on Christmas. What's really cool, I'll explain it here, is that Home Improvement lasted from season 1 all the way to season 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each season has its own Christmas episode, and they're all very good. Yes, there are weaker ones and stronger ones. I'm going to go through all of them. In this video, I'm going to go through seasons 1 through 4. So that is 4 Christmas episodes, each pertaining to each season. And then in an episode coming really soon, or in a video coming very soon of mine, I will look at basically part 2, where we'll look at seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8 to round the whole series up. So let's get started with season 1. Let's begin with season 1. It's episode 12. It's called You'll Better Watch Out, with a play, of course, on Yule. Now, this is perhaps my favorite Christmas episode on all of Home Improvement. There's some really other good ones, but this is personally my favorite. Now, what's great about this episode, there are 2 stories going along at the same time. The first one is with Tim, the main actor, the main character and the main actor. He's having or participating in a Christmas tree light contest. Now, his arch nemesis here, or his nemesis, is Doc Johnson, who's a neighbor of his. Now, he's named several times throughout the series, but you never get to see him. Apparently, he's like an 80-year-old proctologist. And Doc Johnson always wins a Christmas contest. I believe it is 9 years in a row, and Tim is trying to outwit or outsmart him and get all the best Christmas decorations out there. That's one side of the story. The other side, there are 3 kids, Brad, Randy, and Mark, and the littlest one, Mark, is still believing in Santa, and unfortunately his older brothers are telling him that Santa is dead. Now, there's a lot of jokes throughout the whole episode, and it's a great one. And Tim's neighbor, Wilson, you can never see his face. You only see his face in the last episode of the series. Now, Wilson is told by Tim that, well, his little boy is being told that Santa isn't real and so forth, and Wilson kind of gives him a lesson. Well, Santa is real. You know, the St. Nicholas is dead, but the spirit of Santa is real, and it continues to live on. And a little bit later, they hear a knock on the door, and Santa comes in, and everyone in the house, except little Mark, think, hey, that's Wilson dressed up. And they're trying to, kind of keep the identity secret. Now the Santa comes in and gives little Mark, the one who believes in him, a remote control dinosaur, and to the other boys who don't believe in Santa, he gives one a rubber band and to the other a button. Now, it's great because they find out, and as soon as Santa leaves, they see Wilson, his neighbor, in the backyard, and they think, wait, that wasn't Wilson dressed up as Santa. That was the real Santa. And it pretty much ends with little Mark seeing the sky, the bright blue skies. He sees Santa, going across the sky, and it's just a lovely, innocent image, just reminding us about the beauty of Santa Claus and the beauty of giving. Now, the end of the episode is also great when we see Tim. He's putting up the decorations, the lights. He slips in, of course, this cold, frosty winter, and the hammer sticks to his tongue. It's one of a great scenes. The firefighters come in and say, don't worry, we saved his tongue. We're here every year anyway. And it's just such a funny episode. And I mean, the real Santa comes. Again, it's one of my favorites. Moving on to season 2, it is episode 12 as well. I'm Scheming of a White Christmas. Now, this is, in my opinion, not as great as season 1. They kind of pull back a little bit from the whole Christmas contest. It's mentioned here and there, but there's no outlandish scenes of Tim decorating and stuff, which I do miss. I do think season 2 fell short in this, but it's still a great episode. It does begin with the bright light, or a bright Frosty the snowman that Tim puts on the roof. You don't get to see him, but you get to see him turn it on and the bright light that reflects against them. And Mark, his son, with Jill, his wife, and Tim look at it, and they're wearing these goggles, and they're like, don't look directly at Frosty because you're going to go blind. And so these funny scenes, but again, that's not really the focus. The focus of this episode are the 2 oldest boys who are stealing from charity. In fact, they're collecting money for poor kids, and they're taking some for themselves. Now, this is something that Jill and Tim reprimand the kids about, and they learn the lesson of, instead of taking, to give more. And so they apologized to the kids, the charity, and they gave some of their gifts to the poor. Al and Tim are on this flying sled advertising for a charity on their show Tool Time. They have the musicians Manhattan Transfer come on the show, and we do get to see this chimney scene, which we see in another Christmas episode a little bit later. Al gets stuck in the chimney as Santa, and it's a funny moment. It's a pretty funny moment. Again, this episode's very light on the Christmas contest. We learn that Doc Johnson wins again, but they show the burnt Frosty at the end that basically melts into this plastic puddle. It's pretty funny, but it is a little lackluster in the Christmas shenanigans. But season 3 really basically beats out the first 2 seasons. Jumping now to season 3, it's episode 12 again. 'Twas the Blight, with a B, before Christmas. Now, this is season 3. I don't think it's better than season 1, but it's definitely better than season 2, and it kind of one-up everything. This season 3 and 4 are the sweet spots for home improvement. That's kind of my thing. I love season 1 and 2 as well, but I think the sweet spot is 3 and 4. Now, in this one, on Tool Time, which is a year later in the course of the series and in real life when they filmed this, they used the same chimney scene from season 2 that you just saw where Al got stuck. They use it again on the set of season 3, thinking maybe people wouldn't notice, but I noticed because I watched these episodes back to back to back. Now, what is great is the storyline here. They do a little bit of a commercial on Tool Time Tim's show about the Binford mini propane torch, which makes an appearance. I think it's one of the funniest gags in this whole episode. Now, there's even jokes about Al's mom, which is very common. You get to see a giant sock, a thermal sock that belongs to Al's mom, which is just fantastic physical or just visual comedy. The idea of little Mark singing in the church choir, he's one of the letters in Noel, and they're going to church and sing this. Now, the oldest, Brad, the son, he's getting older, and so he wants to skip out on Christmas with his family and go with his friends. Now, again, Doc Johnson and the contest makes a forefront to this story, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the series. When you look at the start of the show, they start to promote even bigger decorations now. You get to see the humor, but also the seriousness in Brad not wanting to be with his family. But then you see this huge angel that Tim just pushes around, and you already know that's going to be part of his decorations. Then he's like, no, son, you got to be his family. And then he moves off camera, and then he pushes a big snowman on screen. And again, it's just, everyone laughs, and it's just so funny because you know what he's going to do with it. And his wife is just like, Tim, you can't keep going so big on this Christmas contest. And he's like, I know, I'm with you, honey. And in the background behind her, he's pushing more things out. It's just so great. I mean, even the wise men, the 3 wise men, they get Tim's faces on all 3. So Tim's face is on all 3 wise men. It's a funny gag, a funny scene. I love it. And then there's this giant red ball, one of the biggest giant red balls you've ever seen. And Jill's like, what's that for? He's like, oh, that's Rudolph's nose. So you can just imagine how big Rudolph is. Again, it's all this visual comedy, which this show, Home Improvement, did so well. I think other shows kind of failed to replicate. And Tim gets this great and crazy and fun line where he says, Christmas is not about, to his son, he says, Christmas is not about being with people you like. It's about being with family. It's just so great. Now, there is a blooper at the end of the episode where you see the roof, the alleged roof of the Taylor family, and they're just basically panning alongside the roof This isn't a real roof, it's just a prop set. But you can see the right side of the wall where the end of the set is, and the black curtain is hanging to make it look like it's night. It's pretty funny. And the ending, Tim gets electrocuted because, he grounds with the snow and the screwdriver, and you see Happy Holidays there and Merry Christmas. And Tim actually says in season 3 that he wins the contest. So allegedly it's the first time he wins the contest. And finally, for this video, the last season I'm going to cover, season 4, episode 12, 'Twas the Night Before Chaos. Now, there's a bit of a blooper here. In the beginning, it mentions that Tim never won the contest. There's a mention that, hey, maybe this year he'll win, even though in season 3, they alleged that he won the contest, and that's because the only judge was Wilson. And he said, well, I guess you're the winner, Mr. Taylor. He's the winner, Tim. And so he was said to win, but in this one, it says that Tim never won. So a little bit of continuity blooper there. Now, in this episode, they go bigger. They go bigger here because they get Tim's brother and his wife, therefore Tim's sister-in-law, as well as the 2 twin girls. And then they have Jill's parents along in the house. And so that makes more of a dynamic. You get to see them and meet them and see them on Christmas. And, it's just Christmas chaos. Jill's parents are bickering and so forth. But what's great about this, Jill is trying to make peace between her parents and the whole dynamic of the home. But at the end, the one who really makes the peace with his silliness and just Tim's unique personality is Tim. He's the one who kind of brings everyone together, which is surprising, but it's wonderful and it's great. Jill says, don't go overboard, Tim, this year. And Tim says, oh, I won't. And behind Tim wheels a donkey behind Jill, and Jill doesn't see it. And it's just such a great episode. You see a little bit of serious moments with Jill and her mom talking about how, Jill's mom and Jill's dad, they're not as close as they used to be after the Colonel's retirement. And so that's a little bit difficult. And Jill's getting in between them and causing even more chaos. And Tim is great. Then he wheels a camel onto the scene and say, I've got to go light up a camel, alleging or just an allusion to the Camel cigarette, which is great, but the actual camel on screen. Tim falls off the roof several times in this episode, which is kind of a staple throughout the series. It's so great, and he falls in different ways throughout. It's pretty funny. And even Tim has an intimate chat with his father-in-law on the roof of their house when they're decorating, and he just says, hey, get into gear with your wife, like get close to her, love her, treat her well. And I think it gets to Tim's father-in-law. He really comes through and he really resonates with what Tim says. So I really love it. There's like a morality here, but it's very real at the same time. Now at the end, there's pop-up decorations that Tim has. He uses the idea that they're camouflage and they pop out, and that's great. And there's even a part where the baby manger in the nativity scene comes up out of the roof. And so Tim basically makes a hole in the roof to have the little crib basically rise and elevate on top of the roof. And he puts one of the twin girls up there, which is just so great. He makes a hole in the roof. And like I said, such great episodes. If you haven't seen these, do yourself a favor. They're probably on Nickelodeon, or they're probably on right now during Christmas time. Go and check them out. Stay tuned very soon. I'm going to cover season 5, 6, 7, and 8 in a separate video. Enjoy those. You should probably look because it's probably loaded very soon. It's going to be uploaded very, very soon. And you'll see how those differ from these. The family changes, the story changes. Let me know if you've seen any of these, if you love home improvement, if you want me to cover this show more, because I absolutely love it. I've told you that I'm going to cover it more, and so I'm excited to bring you more cool things about home improvement. We'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for the support, and most importantly, be hopeful. Thank you so much to my supporters, especially my Diamond Tier patrons, Vito L., Sally N., Ricky, Kevin K., Gerard D., David D., and Citizen Kane 359. If you want your name to be heard or put on this list, make sure to check out the Patreon link in the description. Thank you so much.